try to make this quick as I can. So basically, talking about my birth story, or the birth story of Ari. So I ended up being late, really late, like 4 days late. Okay, do you have a little bit of a gas bubble, like you need to be burped? So I ended up being late, like by 4 days, and she ended up, like I went into my 40-week appointment. I worked, which I like creeped patients out because they were like, how far along are you? Well, I'm due today. Or when are you due? I'm due today. We'll see if we make it through this appointment. No. But anyways, if anybody doesn't know, I work in x-ray and clinics, so I take x-rays of a lot of patients. So I worked that day. I was even joking about it a week prior, like, this is not going to be funny when I'm still here next week on my due date, which is what happened. I went for my appointment, and basically nothing, like I was really tight down there. Nothing really dilated, like maybe got 1 or 2 fingers is how they measure down there. And so they were like, let's schedule you to be induced. You've had blood pressure issues in the past, and then I also have thrombocytopenia. I'm going to write it right here if I got that wrong. And basically it just means I bruise super easily. I have low platelets. And so because of those 2 reasons, they wanted to make sure that the baby came out before I hit 41 weeks. So we scheduled it for that Monday. I was due on a Thursday, and on the 5th, so the day after the 4th of July. And I walked on the 4th of July trying to get this baby out, but it didn't work. And I did all of the tricks, including like having sex, like all of those things, like spicy food, pineapple, all of them. They wouldn't work. I went to Chick-fil-A all the time to get like spicy sandwiches, everything. Anyways, and then, so skip ahead to Sunday. So I was scheduled for 1:30 on Monday for the induction. Skip ahead to Sunday, we went out to our friend's house, just hung out, and by 7:30 contractions were starting that night, so this was on the 8th. Still happened through the night, but I could sleep through them, so it was totally fine. Took a shower in the morning. They were getting a little bit more intense. We got everything ready as if, I didn't have to work that day. I was scheduled to be induced, so we got everything ready as if, I'm going in to be induced, which was the plan. Got Chick-fil-A prior to going to the hospital, ran a couple errands, all while contracting. They got worse when we got to Chick-fil-A, and that was around 11:45. And then we went to the hospital early just because I was contracting. Like, we had to go over railroad tracks, and it was the worst because I had a contraction right as we're crossing the railroad tracks. So we got to the hospital, and we were early, of course, and they were booked. Like, they had to put me in the new extended area of birthing, because all of their rooms were booked, and so they put me way back there. They said, we don't have the room stocked yet. I was like, totally fine, like, we're early, it's fine. We don't have nursing staff yet, it's totally fine, like, we'll hang out here. So we did, we hung out there, and 1:30 rolled around, still hadn't seen a doctor. I think 2 or 2:30 rolled around, finally saw a resident. And it's new resident season, which I was like, I'm not against residents, I love residents, they have so much information because they're learning so much. However, I also am glad that it wasn't my first birth, because I feel I just would be more comfortable. I knew what I wanted this time around because I've done it before, so it was nice to not work with residents on my first time and being on my second. Anyways, they came in. I had already, and I didn't realize this, on my own, without Pitocin or any kind of, induction medication, gotten to 4 centimeters dilation, which is awesome on my own. It's so uncomfortable, but obviously that's birth. So I got to that. The other thing with not being induced at the time, they were like, let's not induce you, right? Let's just see how you progress. They said they could look at my contraction charts. They're like, your contractions are all over the place. Like, they're not consistently timed. They're not consistent in their level of, intensity or anything like that. But let's just wait, see if they kind of get together. We will probably give you Pitocin if they're not regulated, but we'll check back in a bit. So time went by, and I think it was like 6:37. I don't know the times. I really don't remember. My doctor still wasn't there yet. But they ended up checking me again, and I had gotten up to I think 6 centimeters at that point, which I think you need to get to 8 in order to be like, let's go. So I'd already gotten to 6. They called my doctor in, thankfully, and she got in the room. And we started, well, prior to, let's back up a little bit. They were checking me at the same time that I was asking for an epidural. I had tried walking around the birthing ball. It was excruciating. Ben was saying that I would just repeat everything, like, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, over and over again, like, very... Okay, so she ended up coming in the room. I don't know where I left off, but they checked me when I needed the epidural. And I, like, up until the guy came in the room to do the epidural, I was just freaking out and, like, repetitively saying over and over, I can't do this, where's the anesthesiologist, is he coming, they did the epidural, and I'm so thankful I did it when I did. It was, like, maybe an hour before pushing. They had checked me as they were doing the epidural and getting all set up with my IVs and everything like that. And I had moved already to a 6, I think it was. So they got my doctor in the room. She checked me out too. I forget, I don't really remember the order of all of these things. But anyways, I had progressed great without my own and no Pitocin. Never regulated my contractions, but they were working for me, so they didn't mess with it. Which was kind of nice because Pitocin, I responded really well with Josie with the Pitocin. And it was just a little bit crazy. So I think Ben thinks that my body was remembering what we did before. And it went into full gear as if I was on Pitocin. It was a little nuts. Anyways, everything really progressed really quickly, though. I think my whole labor was 9 hours when they calculated it out. Just how much I had labored at home and there. Which I didn't really realize I had gone to that point. But anyways, when I finally got the epidural and I felt so much better. I was such a nicer person. I felt so bad. But my bag was completely intact, so they were like, I guess it was really thick, and they were trying to, they were thinking about popping it, but they ended up not. And so basically they were going to try to see if I could birth the entire bag, which is called a caul or something like, what were they talking about? What were we talking about? I don't know. They were going to pop the bag. But then they asked if I didn't mind not doing it because that can actually progress the labor. So I said I don't care. I had that epidural at that point, so it was fine. So ended up pushing, I think around 8-ish or 8:15. Don't touch that, please. The bag was still intact, and they could like see through it and see her hair and hand and all this stuff. What are you doing, Josie? So the bag was still intact. What did I say? Bag was still intact.
You can see the hair through it.
Oh yeah, you can see the hair through it. All kinds of cool stuff like that. My water with Josie had broken long before pushing time, but the labor was so much longer, and I was on a lot of drugs, so it was just a little different. So this time, just the epidural, so we were waiting it out, and then basically it's kind of odd with epidurals because you can't quite feel everything, so you're always waiting for the contraction numbers to show on the charts. Gentle. And so they basically tell you when to push, like I can kind of feel it, to push with the contractions. So anyways, I pushed, and then eventually the bag ended up popping, but only the region that was bulging out because it was such a thick bag. And then I don't remember what, she came out at 8:47, but she had her arm wrapped completely like this. I think her hand was all the way on the other side. And then she also like took a huge gulp of amniotic fluid. Are you checking out your vacuum? And with all of those things, she was really, really like purpley gray because she couldn't breathe. So they were like working really, really hard to get her to breathe. And I think Ben and I, oh, you're okay. I don't know. It was really, really scary. And I feel like time went super slow all of a sudden with that because they were trying really hard to get her to breathe. They ended up suctioning her and she finally cried, which is what they always look for. And it was just that she just couldn't breathe. Anyways, that was really, really scary. But she was fine. We were fine. So with the bag, the doctor was really glad that she told the resident, because she was working with a resident, that they didn't pop the bag because they think the bag actually protected her arm that was wrapped completely around. So it made it as how my husband Ben has described it, is it made her arm and head and everything come out as one piece instead of just an arm and, you know, chest and or neck and head and that sort of thing. Where did she just get that from? Right here. Did she drink some? Did she? So I guess it got it as one piece, and so she didn't break an arm or a clavicle or anything like that. So they're glad they didn't pop it, so she was able to deliver a lot better for her. So that was a good thing with the bag. So anyways, guys, thank you